As Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories, I rise to outline the Albanese Government's vision for a more prosperous, resilient and sustainable regional Australia. This budget not only supports that vision but also delivers the kind of investment that will keep our regional communities at the very centre of national economic development, as it should be. I'm a proud member of this place, a very proud regional member, and I know how fortunate I am to have spent my life in regional Australia. I'm lucky to call the Bega Valley home, and I wouldn't want to live, work or raise our family anywhere else. The people, the landscape, the lifestyle and the opportunities. And at the risk of sounding like a new tourism ad for southeast New South Wales, it really is a special place. There is a deep sense of community spirit in regional and rural areas. It's something that at times is hard to describe. It's a rare mix of determination, respect, good humour, resilience, optimism and a touch of sarcasm. And you can certainly feel it in the way that people come together quietly, with purpose, particularly in the hard times, and with great gusto to celebrate when times are good. Deputy Speaker, this budget is about looking out for regional Australians in good times and when times are tough. No one held back and no one left behind. It's about easing cost of living pressures. It's about access to housing. It's about better health care for regional Australians, with better access to services closer to home. And it's also about providing more opportunities to study closer to home or to undertake apprenticeships and training pathways that lead to real jobs at the end. And that's what keeps young people living in the regions, close to family and friends, to community supports, to work and to study. It's about more investment in better, safer roads for long-distance travel and for local trips, because regional Australians deserve nothing less. Deputy Speaker, every dollar matters, but never more with the rise in the cost of living. The past few years have been difficult for families, for people on low incomes, for small business owners and for young people starting out. And it's been tough in regional communities, with longer distances to travel and higher costs due to freight charges. This government wants to make sure every hard-earned dollar goes further for regional Australia, and that's why we're introducing new tax cuts for every working Australian taxpayer. The Working Australians tax offset provides an additional tax cut of up to $250 for working Australians on top of the tax cuts in the 24-25 budget and the two upcoming rounds announced in the 25-26 budget. The Working Australians tax offset is a permanent annual tax offset of up to $250 from the 27-28 income year for all Australian workers. Our 5 different tax cuts will benefit the average worker by up to $2,816 in 2028 and add up to $54 back in the average worker's pocket each week. Deputy Speaker, our government also wants to make small businesses save thousands of dollars by making the instant asset write-off permanent. This means small businesses will be able to immediately deduct new equipment worth up to $20,000, from new tech to tools and machinery. The other immediate pressure we've worked hard to address is fuel. Cost of fuel and availability of fuel, especially diesel. Regional Australia has been hit hardest by the impact of the global fuel shortage. By acting quickly to secure more fuel for industries most exposed to the shortage, agriculture, transport and mining, we're protecting regional productivity. We've moved quickly to more than halve the fuel excise and reduced the heavy vehicle road user charge to 0 for 3 months to June. This has helped keep freight moving around the country and all Australians that have been feeling the pinch. The availability of fertiliser is also critical for our farmers. This government has secured a deal for 250,000 tonnes of additional agricultural-grade urea to provide certainty for the upcoming planting season. And we've also underwritten the purchase of fertiliser by the private sector to support availability and streamlining broader processes, including reducing port clearance times. Farming and agriculture has always been the backbone of this country and of regional Australia, and we know how important it is to support this industry. That's why this budget is delivering a landmark $14.8 billion Australian fuel security and resilience package to safeguard the nation's energy sovereignty. The package will help secure the fuel and fertiliser supplies that Australia needs by targeting financial support and also establishing a government-owned reserve. The Albanese government will protect Australia's energy interests, support essential industries and help secure reliable fuel access during future supply issues. Deputy Speaker, one of the great privileges of my portfolio is not only traversing so much of my own electorate, but also visiting so many communities from across this incredible country of ours, from Colac to Cloncurry, to Katherine, to Dolphin Sands, to Orange, and communities like yours in Bendigo. It's when you're visiting the local Chamber of Commerce or the SES, talking to parents and staff at the childcare centre, catching up with locals at a bakery, that you start to understand the challenges and the hopes of each region. And while every town and community is unique, there are compelling themes that are raised all the time. So I turn now to the health and well-being of regional Australians. Last August, I spent time with my colleague, the member for Hunter and Special Envoy for Men's Health, Dan Repicoli. We visited the Goulburn Railway Bowling Club to talk about all the topics that can sometimes be difficult for men to talk about. And what we heard was no surprise. Health and well-being in regional Australia is top of mind, even if it's not always spoken about. Access to care is top of mind. Affordable care is top of mind. And quality of care is top of mind. And it always remains top of mind for our government, which is why this government's $579.6 million a year investment to keep Medicare urgent care clinics open and free matters so much to Australians who are living in regional and rural communities. Our Medicare urgent care clinics will be embedded as a permanent feature of Australia's health system. That's 137 clinics providing accessible and affordable urgent care services across the country, and 47 support communities in regional, rural and remote Australia. Now, I know what a difference the urgent care clinic made in Bega, in my local community. It opened in February. Glenn from Bega took the time to contact me to express his gratitude, and he used the clinic because he'd had an altercation with a Stanley knife. He said it was an excellent service and that he was very happy and grateful for this initiative. And Gordon from Bega also called my office to let us know he was impressed with the service and he's been telling everyone about it. Having access to this bulk billed urgent care clinic is also taking pressure off the emergency department at the South East Regional Hospital. We know Medicare urgent care clinics are a game changer, particularly if you live outside a major city. Free urgent care close to home, removing another cost of living pressure and supporting better health outcomes for regional Australians. In the 26-27, we're also investing a further $25 million to establish up to 6 new fully bulk billed general practices in the Central Coast, Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and Hunter regions. These measures mean Australians in regional, rural and remote areas will have options to access healthcare closer to home. And we're also investing in the next generation of doctors through higher education measures. This includes 20 new medical Commonwealth support places for the University of Tasmania to help address rural and regional workforce shortages and to strengthen primary care outcomes, particularly in northern Tassie. On the point of education, I want to highlight the work we've done to support learning in regional Australia. I went to a great regional public school, and it set me up for a great career in the law and now in public service. My kids go to a great regional public school, and I want them to have that same quality education experience that others might get. One that doesn't just see them through the grades, but sets them up for life, to shine and to succeed at whatever they wish to do. Great educational outcomes need great teachers, and this government has invested $160 million in the Commonwealth Teaching Scholarships program to encourage more people to enter the teaching profession, especially in regional communities. We've also seen the incredible success of the regional university study hubs to help country students access higher education without moving, And in April, I was delighted to open the new Country University Centre, Snowy Valleys, which is in Tumut, not far from here. Talking to young people, to parents, staff and local employers, this model is so welcome in our communities, where in the past it had been an accepted practice to wave school leavers off to the major cities for a higher education. We say not anymore. Looking out for the youngest members of our community is also a priority for me. This government recognises that support for the early years, the under fives, is also investing in Australia's future. That's why we are supporting early childhood programs such as the National Voice for Our Children Early Years Support Program, supporting culturally safe and holistic early learning while strengthening families and communities. There is also $5.8 million to extend higher parliament and civics education rebate levels for schools in regional and disadvantaged areas for a further 2 years. This program supports those educational visits and school camps to the national, democratic, historical and cultural institutions in Canberra. Deputy Speaker, as Minister for Regional Development, I'm acutely aware that housing supply, affordability and enabling infrastructure in our regions are key drivers of whether families and workers can move to or to stay in the place that they are needed most. Our government is addressing the unique housing challenge in regional Australia to ensure our regions remain strong, connected and well-positioned to provide opportunity to those who live and work there. Responding to concerns about housing security, particularly in regional Australia, this government has an over $47 billion Homes for Australia plan to build more homes, to help more first home buyers and to support renters. Underpinning this plan is a shared commitment to deliver 1.2 million new, well-located homes by 30 June 2029 under the National Housing Accord. Regional Australians are a priority across our major housing initiatives, with significant programs underway that are already delivering better outcomes in our regions. Programs such as the expanded 5% deposit scheme and the Help to Buy scheme are helping more Australians get the keys to their own home. We've already helped over 81,000 regional Australians into home ownership through the 5% deposit scheme since May 2022. The Albanese government has committed to deliver 55,000 social and affordable homes across the country, including through the Housing Australia Future Fund. Under the Housing Australia Future Fund, $200 million is being allocated for the repair, maintenance and improvement of housing in remote Indigenous communities in Queensland, WA, South Australia and the NT. Rounds 1 and 2 of the Housing Australia Future Fund are also supporting the development of more than 2,800 social and affordable homes in regional and remote areas, with more expected in Round 3. Down in the Snowy Mountains, we've recognised the need for more housing, so we're providing $12.4 million to the Cooma Housing Project through the Housing Australia Critical Infrastructure Program, which will develop 12.6 hectares of unused land into a new community with 140 new residential land lots, with a mix of social, affordable and private housing options tailored to the local community. The $2 billion Social Housing Accelerator payment is on track to deliver over 1,350 homes in regional Australia. Deputy Speaker, I've seen firsthand how safe, secure housing can change lives, and I've heard loud and clear from local councils all over the country that they stand ready to help us deliver more housing. They need help with more enabling and community infrastructure, and in this budget we are delivering both. To increase housing supply in the regions, the government has created a new $2 billion local infrastructure fund under the Housing Support Program, with $500 million of that dedicated to local enabling infrastructure in regional Australia. We are responding to the demand for housing enabling infrastructure demonstrated through the Community Enabling Infrastructure stream under that Housing Support Program. It's funded projects like the $112.3 million Morong Sewer Infrastructure Upgrade, which is a project in growing the Morong Township of the Bendigo region. This project is well underway, delivering upgrades to 3 sewer pump stations in Morong and constructing 6 kilometres of rising mains along the Calder Highway to enable the development of over 2,300 much-needed new residential lots. The new stream of the Housing Support Program will help local governments and state utility providers build the critical last-mile infrastructure needed to support new housing developments. It will be available where a state or territory commits to undertake further reforms to build more homes. An ambitious set of reforms has the potential to support tens of thousands of additional homes. Deputy Speaker, this budget also supports priority transport and community infrastructure projects that improve safety, freight efficiency and connectivity for our regional communities. It delivers safer and more reliable transport networks, it strengthens connections between the cities and the regions, and it supports economic growth. We're continuing to invest in transport infrastructure through the over $120 billion 10-year infrastructure investment pipeline. This budget will see a total of $12.1 billion in new investments across the transport and infrastructure portfolio, with $10.3 billion for transport infrastructure projects, $976 million for transport and $803 million for community infrastructure. This included record investment in regional Australia, from the Pilbara to the Limestone Coast to the Bruce Highway. We're also supporting our local councils, doubling the level of funding they are provided to maintain and improve local roads through the Roads to Recovery program. Since July 2024, the government has committed $4.4 billion nationally over 5 years. This is $1.8 billion more than the previous 5 years. Funding is allocated to each local council, with almost $850 million allocated nationally this financial year. In this budget, we're also bringing forward payment of $2.9 billion for local councils, being 80% of the 2026-27 estimate, which will be paid to states and territories before June 26, to be passed on to every council in Australia. This will be important funding to assist councils to continue to deliver essential services in our regional and remote communities. The $200 million per year Safer Local Roads and Infrastructure program also funds targeted freight efficiency. It improves road safety and productivity. It renews bridges and delivers heavy vehicle rest areas on our regional highways. Projects like the replacement of the bridge over the Growan Creek on Guida Highway near Collarenebri is a perfect example of how this government is improving freight movements to and from our regions. We also have the Remote Roads Upgrade Pilot Program, committing $150 million to 33 road improvement projects in regional communities. Locally, that includes Mansfield Shire Council's recently completed $12.3 million upgrade to Highton Lane, Rifle Butts Road and Chapel Hill Road, improving safety, traffic flow and heavy vehicle access. Following our support throughout the Rex Voluntary Administration process, this government continues to put in place measures that will help preserve regional aviation connectivity. This year's budget will provide $38.1 million over 4 years and $7.3 million ongoing each year to strengthen protections for aviation consumers, and $4.5 million over 4 years for the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission to continue aviation price monitoring. These are important measures that help support people in the regions who rely on accessible and affordable air services. Deputy Speaker, this government is committed to improving road safety outcomes across the country, and that matters to me and every regional member of this place. We want to make sure that everyone travelling our regional roads makes it to their destination safely and makes it home safely. That's why we're investing more in national road safety research to ensure our future funding decisions are targeted to where it will have the greatest impact. This work will draw on the expert advice and leverage the extensive national data set through our National Road Safety Data Hub. In 2024, Minister King successfully negotiated data sharing provisions through the new Infrastructure Federation Funding Agreement with the states and territories. These provisions are delivering an uplift in the quality and the utility of road safety data available to the Australian government. This further research will explore the incidence of road accidents in greater depth, and it will consider emerging opportunities and risks as vehicle technologies evolve. To this end, we will continue our important Black Spot program, increased from $110 to $150 million per year by this government. In every state and territory, we are funding essential improvements like traffic signals, roundabouts and safety barriers. Turning from road to rail, we are supporting high-speed rail through funding for the Newcastle to Sydney development phase, providing $659.6 million over 3 years to the High-Speed Rail Authority. Better connection between Newcastle and Sydney will support regional livability and growth, not to mention workforce participation as we keep up the momentum towards the delivery of high-speed rail in Australia. Deputy Speaker, we're also investing a further $1.75 billion in the Australian Rail Track Corporation to strengthen the existing rail track network, taking our total commitment to upgrade that network to nearly $2.8 billion. This work will involve upgrades to improve the efficiency of the north-south rail line, supporting longer trains and enhanced service reliability and safety. Works will also include resilience upgrades in high-risk, flood-prone sections, particularly along the east-west corridor, which has faced many multi-week closures over the last decade following downpours in Central Australia. We'll also continue to focus on delivering the Inland Rail project between Beveridge in Victoria and Parkes in New South Wales by the end of 2027. This will enable double-stacked freight trains to travel between Melbourne and Perth via Parkes. These transformative rail projects are helping to reduce emissions and to make our roads safer. Deputy Speaker, I also want to highlight our commitment of an additional $750 million for a further round of our flagship programs, Growing Regions and Thriving Suburbs, bringing total investment since 2022 to over $1.7 billion. The Growing Regions program supports community infrastructure development across regional, rural and remote communities. And we've already seen some amazing projects being delivered under this program. I was delighted to visit Roma in Queensland and see how our $15 million investment under this program will help revitalise the local swimming pool. It only took a Labor government to get that. And I also want to mention our $5.9 million Growing Regions program support for the revitalisation of the CBD in the Curry. Cloncurry, one of the most friendly and growing communities in northwest Queensland. The upgrade of Scar Street will deliver improved amenities, accessibility, connectivity and safety for residents and visitors alike, and is particularly welcome given the recent floods in that area. Round 3 of Growing Regions will provide between $250,000 to $15 million per project for construction-ready, broad-use, community-focused infrastructure that strengthens connection and social cohesion and supports local governing bodies to deliver infrastructure aligned to local, regional and national priorities. This budget also includes $22.5 million to deliver Round 10 of the Stronger Communities program, building on the more than 18,000 projects already delivered to benefit local communities. Deputy Speaker, this budget also delivers on our Closing the Gap commitments. It delivers more support for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, especially in regional and remote communities. And we know firsthand that economic empowerment in Central Australia is improving outcomes for First Nations people. That's why we are investing an additional $299 million in the Remote Jobs and Economic Development program to double new jobs from 3,000 to 6,000 by 2030. These are jobs with decent wages and conditions like sick leave and superannuation. And this is about the dignity of work for people in remote areas. And I want to thank the member for Lingiari for her continued commitment in this space. The government has committed an additional $27.4 million for the expansion of the low-cost essential subsidy scheme. Families in remote communities are seeing savings of up to 50% on items like canned fruit, tinned vegetables, pasta, nappies, soap and toilet paper. By addressing the higher cost of essential goods in remote areas, this initiative also supports improved food security and contributes to better health and wellbeing for individuals and for families. We're also committing $32.7 million over 3 years from 26-27 to expand the Stores Efficiency and Resilience package. This will enable an additional 75 remote stores to increase stock levels and be prepared when communities are cut off. This budget includes measures to improve digital inclusion, including free Wi-Fi for 53 remote communities through the First Nations Community Wi-Fi program, and this has proved to be an absolute game changer. We're delivering more health services with further investments in health infrastructure, in culturally safe maternity services and in 13 Yarn to support First Nations people when they need it most. We are delivering the first standalone national plan to end violence against First Nations women and children. Our ways, strong ways, our voices. And we are backing it with a $218.3 million injection of funds for immediate action. It supports community-led responses to family, domestic and sexual violence by establishing a national Aboriginal community-controlled organisation network and continuing funding for the peak body, Our Ways Strong Together. We're also continuing our early years support through SNAKE, National Voice for Our Children, helping First Nations community-controlled organisations deliver early childhood services in New South Wales, Victoria and Western Australia. It also supports learning and jobs, investment to lift First Nations education outcomes, expanding the TAFE Technology Fund so training can be delivered through mobile services, particularly in remote First Nations communities. These measures sit alongside investments that help First Nations people take part in new economic and environmental opportunities in the regions. Deputy Speaker, over the course of this high-risk weather season, I've seen firsthand the devastating impacts of natural disasters across many regional and rural communities. Communities like yours, communities like Julia Creek in Queensland, Catherine in the NT, Ruffy in Victoria, Dolphin Sands in Tassie, and of course on the Central Coast. In just the last high-risk weather season, we saw 60 severe weather events impacting more than 190 local government areas, with some communities impacted back-to-back. And resilience is a word we talk a lot about in emergency management, and it unfortunately has been sorely tested across significant parts of our country by extreme weather events. A recovery journey doesn't end when the high-risk weather season does. It takes years, which is why this government is investing in disaster recovery and emergency management to back regional communities every step of the way. Deputy Speaker, reliable and timely public warnings are essential for local preparedness, for early action and for community safety. Our new national messaging system, AusAlert, is a national emergency and public safety capability designed to deliver fast, secure and geo-targeted messaging. AusAlert will empower Australians to make timely, informed decisions to keep themselves safe and their loved ones too. The AusAlert project continues to progress with community-based trials in June and a national test on the 27th of July this year. Following these tests, the AusAlert system will be operational by October 2026. 2026 obviously was a summer where we saw fires impact a lot of Victorian communities. Once again, they are reeling from catastrophic damage. Longwood, Dargo, Carlisle River, Walwa, Toowong, Alexandra, Harcourt and many, many more. Having lived through the horrific Black Summer bushfires in my own community, the sound, the smell and the taste of bushfire is something that you don't get used to, but it has become a reality of living in regional and rural Australia. Today, the National Aerial Firefighting Capability is a coordinated, high-tech fleet of over 160 contracted aircraft managed by the National Aerial Firefighting Centre on behalf of states and territories, and we are continuing to invest in it through this budget. When I first became a member of this parliament, having proudly served my community as a local mayor, I said that a postcode should never be a barrier to opportunity in regional Australia. Where you live should not define your opportunities in life, and I mean that just as much today as I did then. Perhaps even more so, as I meet more of the extraordinary people who call regional Australia home. Deputy Speaker, this budget is for them, it's for their children and for their grandchildren to follow. This budget is a blueprint for a stronger and more resilient regional Australia, a regional Australia that is more optimistic for its future, is confident that the government is going to be there in good times and in bad. It's about supporting a vision for growth and development while preserving the unique identity and fierce sense of community that sets our regional communities apart, so that every Australian, no matter where they live, can share in our national prosperity, today and for the decades to come.